Hello, and welcome to the Fresh Air Show. What is up, guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Fresh Air Show.
Yay!
Hello, everyone.
Now, we should be plainly honest and just say what we're all thinking. The coronavirus. It's been...
Oh boy.
Yep, it's been under the radar, but ever since the end of December, it's been slowly spreading, and now it's at our front doorstep.
Scary.
Now, I've been looking over stats and statistics. I've been returning to this one website, which is pretty interesting, and it basically counts up the cases and makes a whole bunch of graphs. And I want to start off by saying the three of us don't have the virus. At least I don't think we do.
No.
Yeah.
We're mostly young and not immunocompromised, so I think we personally are in the clear.
Yeah.
And even if we did, it's only slightly blown out of proportion in the fact that for young not non-immunocompromised people, it's not much worse than the flu. It's the elderly, the children, and the people with underlying diseases that we need to worry about.
Yeah.
As well as people who are pregnant and things like that,
Yes.
essentially. Just stuff like that.
So yeah, you heard it here. From accounts from people who have already had the virus and recovered, they basically describe it as just an advanced fever or cold. Now, I'm sure we've all had colds and fevers before in the past, so if we can live through that, I'm pretty sure we'll be fine.
It's one of those things where it's a new virus, and since it's new, we don't know much about it. That's what makes it scary, is that we don't understand it, therefore it is frightening.
Yes.
Yeah, and speaking of frightening, I'm not scared, but we've all heard headlines of a ton of people who are. Panic buyers. We've all seen them.
Yes.
Because as soon as something unpredictable happens, everyone goes into panic mode. Like Storm Emma 2 years ago. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Similar case. Milk and bread cleared off the shelves because people were thinking, oh my god, it's the new ice age, it's the end of the world. No, it's not.
Just slightly worse than usual.
Speaking as someone who works at a grocery store, I've seen firsthand the chaos of all this stuff.
Oh, God. Yeah, just a few hours ago, me and my mum were out shopping, and the pasta, the drinks, all sorts of things were just completely cleared. Meat as well, and it was honestly ridiculous the way things are going.
Flour.
Yep.
My mum was a former nurse, so she's especially annoyed about this because she knows, like, the details of it all. She was talking to me about it. And it's not just regular people who are worrying. Hospitals are also buying large stocks of little hand sanitizer packets.
Yeah.
My mum is, I won't give her specific workplace, but she spent her day off on the phone trying to convince her hospital not to buy all of those mini hand sanitizers because people kept stealing them.
Jeez.
Yeah, so not but just the civilians.
You know, speaking of items going off the shelves, bizarrely, the number one thing that's been rushing off the shelves is toilet paper. Of all things to buy in bulk, why toilet paper?
See,
Well,
I can understand them buying toilet paper because it's got similar symptoms to the cold. Like, if you had to blow your nose and stuff and prevent cross-contamination, fair enough. But you don't buy 9 packs of 9 toilet paper for that
Hmm.
reason. You know, so much so that stores are now limiting in some places how much you can buy. It could be, but still, if they say, "Oh, you can pick up 2 packets or 5 packets of tissue," you're still getting 18 rolls of tissue, and not a lot of people get. So the important thing to take away from this is not to panic too much, people. It's not. I know some people are like dying to the virus, sadly, and things like that. But
it's a small amount.
Yeah, exactly. It's not something to be fretting about, and try to relax a little bit, because some people are blowing it way out of proportion. And as long as you're all taking care of yourself, then it should be okay, I think.
So yeah, it is a slightly nervous time, but hey, we're here now, and we're here to entertain you. So, who knows? You might be listening to this in the hospital while you're recovering. Now, this is actually an early entry into the month's most ridiculous headlines.
Oh.
And it and it basically said how, amid the toilet paper shortage, an arcade has made a claw machine available to the public, but you can try and grab singular toilet roll tubes. Just so
I'm sure we've seen all the memes and the pictures recently online. I think my favourite one so far is Indiana Jones about to lift the toilet roll before the boulder chases him. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah. So, yeah. In terms of the bread shortages, surprisingly, I don't actually have that much bread in my daily routine. Normally, now that doesn't mean I don't eat bread full stop. I just have, in terms of sandwiches, I just prefer a baguette, for example. So yeah, we normally just buy them, half them, and there's my lunch. That's normally how I tend to bypass these bread shortages, because, well, it's just a lump of dough. That's not bread. Not yet. So, yeah. Any other issues you want to bring up regarding the coronavirus?
I guess I could add. Well, basically, I've been at my job for 11 years, and on Friday I actually had a job interview and got a new job. But then it doesn't matter now, because over the next 5 days, all these things about no one going out to get stuff and things is going to ruin a lot of businesses, because you can't. So now I've had to completely cancel that and stay where I am, because the business I'm at the moment is bigger than the other one.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a bit like, dang.
In the words of Tony Stark, I'm sorry, the Earth is closed today, thank you. Because not just that, Dudley, it's tons of facilities everywhere. Like, museums are closed, cinemas are temporarily closed. Times Square is practically barren because there's so few people out.
Yeah, my college is closed until further notice as well.
Remember, further noticed. It's not closed permanently, I think. So,
unfortunately.
It's just it's just until things calm down and cures and vaccines are made more available.
I won't go into all the details, but I say props to Pokemon Go for giving you all the stuff that lets you stay home and still be able to play the game. Most companies would have you not be able to play it until the virus had gone or something. So,
So props to Nintendo, or whoever it is that's in charge of that.
Yeah, Nintendo.
So
they know their consumer base.
So yeah, just to sort of end this first segment off, don't panic. Wash your hands frequently. Be aware of who might get it. And remember, if you experience symptoms such as coughing, sore throats, headaches, pains, then yeah, take the necessary precautions to uh, help yourself get well again.
Mm-hmm. And if you so happen to be ill right now or in the hospital, then we say get well soon as well.
We send our regards. Hope you get well soon. You're listening to The Fresh Air Show. Well, in terms of medical stories, I actually had one happen pretty recently, as in this week.
Oh.
No.
Now, this I've been sort of keeping this under the radar, but for the past 6 months or so, I've been having a slight issue with my left eyelids swelling up, and so so I've basically just had to put up with that for quite a bit, and now it wasn't painful or anything, it was just irritating, but it did have me slightly concerned because to me my eyes are my most important body part, I think. Like, if I suddenly went blind, suddenly that's my internet life over. So.
Oh god.
So, but it wasn't anything that serious. I just. It's just the idea of having work done in your eyes that makes you a little squeamish. Which.
Yeah. 6 months. Well, 6 months is quite a while to let you think about it as well, isn't it? If you've got something wrong with your eye.
Well, it's swollen down now. It's gone away. However, like I've said, I think the eye is the most sensitive part of the body, and so I can't bear to see anything happen to someone's eyes. Like, even in movies or stuff that isn't real, it's still the idea of it is just ugh.
See.
Which conveniently tied in with something I saw recently.
Huh?
Now, I've wanted to talk about this for a long time, and finally I have my excuse. On Netflix, The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance.
I know exactly what you're going to talk about.
Yeah. Oh, a brilliant series expanding on Jim Henson's magnum opus that was the original Dark Crystal. And one of the main villains, aka the Skeksis, who...
Spoilers, by the way.
Yeah. Do we need a spoiler alert on a streaming service? But enough about that. Basically, one of the Skeksis, the scientist, who, would you know it, is also played by Mark Hamill. That's another role he played.
Wow.
And basically, he gets blamed for something he didn't do, and
classic.
If you've seen the original movie, you'll know that he has a bionic eye. And as a punishment in the series, we see how that happened.
Yeah, because the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance on Netflix is a prequel to the Dark Crystal movie that came out many, many years ago.
And so, basically, because the Skeksis are pretty cruel, they decide to have this little grub eat out his eye. And I was just sitting there with my swollen eyelids thinking, help me.
you see it from his perspective as well, which is quite horrible. You imagine looking out of, like, shut one eye now and imagine this thing that's like sticking around on your head, like about to attack your eye, that's being held open. That's pretty horrible.
But to diverse away from the gruesome part, this also kind of extends part of the story. So this is what happened a few weeks ago, or this week. So my dad wakes up one morning, and from my room he hears this weird groaning noise, like, and he automatically is like, Daniel, what is that noise? Stop it. Because my dad works for Lenovo, so often he likes to have the house completely quiet. And so this noise apparently kept up, just, and he was like, Dad, will you be quiet? But he was literally shouting this now.
Yikes.
And so eventually he gets, and this sound just kept up, just, and he got so furious that
What
he,
are you doing?
so he eventually he gets so furious that he gets out of bed, stomps over to my room, opens up the door, and he's like, Daniel, what are you? I'm not there. He hears the noise again. And he looked around and he saw out the back window it was my neighbours using a chainsaw.
Oh, that neighbour again. First the lawnmower interrupting your dream, now this.
Yeah, because I was at the hospital getting discharged for my eye healing up, and he didn't know I was gone, and so he just automatically assumed
You
it was
didn't know
me.
you were at the hospital this whole time?
I know, like, because anyone who's stayed at our house know that I tend to sort of move sort of like a phantom. Like, so I often wind up accidentally sneaking up on people when they don't realize it. So once again, me being phantom-like, I just left the house. He didn't know, and yeah, that happened.
What your dad didn't tell you is that it was actually a zombie with a chainsaw.
Oh,
God.
God. Ugh.
What a twist.
Yeah. So, what about you two? Any medical stories?
I've never had anything serious enough to warrant a hospital visit. Closest thing I've had was an injury when I was like back in nursery.
Ooh.
I'm actually the same. I've never had to go to hospital for anything, knock on wood. But I think I've said this story before, the only thing I could say is I had chicken pox in secondary school, but I had it on a week I had exams and I got out of them, which
Yeah.
is quite good.
Handy.
But I would say, now, let's say you had enough money to do so and you were blind, either in one eye or, let's say for sake of argument, both eyes. Would you get a mechanical eye so that you could see again? Because that is a thing now. But imagine what it must feel like for that to be done.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's like thinking about what it's like having your teeth extracted. It's like it's necessary. You feel better afterwards, but it's just the process that you don't want to think about.
Like, how much painkiller can they give you to remove that sensitivity of the eyes? You know, it's like,
But if I could have eyes, replacement eyes, I think I might go for it.
I will have it fully cybernetic looking and look really cool.
yeah, like the scientist from Dark Crystal.
So
yeah, or just like a red LED sort of light that glows in the dark, and I can just be like,
where is John Connor?
Dad would be going around at night, and his dad will come around the corner, and his eyes will flash red.
Well, seeing as how there's not that much medical stories here, I might as well fill in the void with another one that I had. Now, this story happened years ago, but I can still remember it like it was yesterday. Now, it was in... I think it was about the age of 10 or 11, and that will forever be cemented as the year my dad earned the Worst Father of the Year award.
Do tell.
So, me, my family, and my cousins were on a short holiday on one of the many islands surrounding Scotland. Not going to say which one, but just use your imagination. So, as young 10-year-olds, normally the only entertainment is either the arcade or the rock pools. And these rock pools were set on like an old boat ramp. Like it was made out of stone, cobblestone bricks, and it sort of led down towards this rocky beach.
Yeah.
Now, life lesson for the people of the world: if it looks slippery, it probably is slippery.
Oh dear.
And so, I was watching my step on like these rocks, like being careful, like because algae often gathers on sea rocks when it's high tide, and often they're really slippery. And so I was being careful, watching my step, and my cousins call over saying, "Hey, come and look at this! We found something." And so I watch my step, but all of a sudden I practically do slip on a banana peel on like this unsuspecting bit of cobblestone, and so I start slipping towards one of the rock pools.
Oh dear.
And I, in an effort to stop myself from slipping, I like held my arms out to the side and just tried to anchor myself to the bricks to try and stop myself from slipping. But I kept going until I felt this terrible pain in my forearm, and I was rolling on the ground like, oh God, why is it hurting so bad? Because it's in that we all experience that moment. Like, am I gonna be able to walk after this? Is this something I can brush off? Like, is this like me getting a bruise or something? So I like crawled on all my remaining arm and my legs up the bank to the grassy knoll, which was at the top of the boat ramp thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I think it's calming down now. But I didn't really think much of it after until I went to bed, and while I was trying to get comfortable, and I leaned on my arm and it was acting up like, why is this still hurting? And this continued on until the next day, where my dad suggested that we cycle around the island.
Oh.
At this point, anytime my arm moved a certain way, I was in agony. And so I was like, you know what? The arcade's open. I can keep myself occupied. Why don't I just wait here while you cycle around the island? I'll wait for you when you get back.
Did you actually tell him about you falling off of the
Yeah, I did.
rock and all that? Okay.
So, do you think Dad accepted my opinion to not cycle around the island?
No.
Nope. He decides to order a tandem. Because I wouldn't cycle, because I didn't want to cycle around the island with my bad arm, and so he suggested we order a tandem or a double bike so he could do the cycling while I just went along with him. But my arm once again was acting up, and I was like, no, Dad, no, I can't. At this point I'm in tears, and my gran comes up and says, you know what, maybe we should take him to a medical center. Maybe this really is something bad.
Serious.
Yeah, and so we went to the local medical center, where it turns out I had a fracture.
Oh God.
apparently when I was trying to anchor myself into the cobblestone, like the bumping over the cobblestone, my arm just broke, and so that's the. If this isn't obvious enough, this is the most serious medical thing that I've been a part of.
Thanks.
So I was given like a cast to wear on my forearm to wear for like 2 months or so, and my gran drove me to drove me along the cycle path, and there we met my dad. And once he saw my bandaged arm, he was like, "Oh God, I'm a terrible person."
Well,
So,
at least he realised that.
so yeah, that happened. That's the most painful medical story that I have.
Thanks.
So yeah,
Sounds horrible.
yeah, but my arm's better now. I can use it. So, on that year, my dad earned the award of Worst Father of the Year.
So, podcast viewers, get ready to place your votes. Is it Dan's father who was the worst, or was it Rowan's who handcuffed her to a bed? You decide. No.
Who's the more troublesome parent? Leave your votes in the
It's my dad,
comments below.
definitely.
Yeah.
You are listening to the Fresh Air Show.
Well, it's time for the month's most ridiculous headlines. For real this time.
I would have done a sound, but I did it for the preemptive one earlier. So.
All right. In this month's news, Star Trek fans have accused President Trump of copying the logo for the new Space Force.
Really? Seriously?
Yeah. Now, regardless of what president came up with this idea, as a newly introduced Star Trek fan, if my fictional TV show's emblem was going to be the official Air and Space logo for our world, I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah?
Now, granted, when you actually see the Star Trek logo, which is basically a sort of rounded triangle with like a little dip right at the bottom, and
Sort of like a ship shape in a way.
yeah, and the official one, it's a pointed triangle with another pointed dip. So you can sort of see the similarities, but honestly, like I said before, if my sci-fi show's emblem was going to be the official Air and Space emblem, I'd be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, though. It's not like if they just changed the logo slightly. I mean, you could get a lot of money if they did make it. You know, I mean, you could earn a lot of money for giving your logo to them for such a thing. But instead, if they tweak it just a tiny bit, like, I changed one little digital cell in it, and that's different. So now it's mine. Haha, it's a bit.
Yeah. Well, whether this will eventually begin the construction of the USS Enterprise, who knows? All right. Here's the next headline. A Texas man admits to kidnapping 79 people, probing them while disguised as an alien.
Excuse? What?
Yeah. Now, I'm looking at this guy's mugshot. He looks like an alien.
Just in general.
Like, seriously, he's like this 70-year-old balding old man, and his ears are so large and pointy, it's ridiculous.
So maybe he didn't dress up, is what you're saying.
He may be an alien the whole time.
My God. Scully, you ain't gonna believe this.
Oh, God. Now, what I think is really strange is that when you when you do something bad, you almost change in appearance regarding to what you've done. Like
Mm.
people who have accidentally murdered someone often look like they've already killed someone. And then you have this guy probing and kidnapping people, and he genuinely looks like an alien. So,
Coincidence? I think not.
That's an interesting observation.
so, yeah, he's been captured and arrested, so all's well.
That's good.
All right. Here's the next headline. A McDonald's in Kilmarnock plays classical music to keep the young ones away. Because, apparently, this McDonald's in Kilmarnock apparently plays music in the background while people eat. And because McDonald's is great for children, oftentimes they stick around all day and cause trouble because their favorite jams are playing and they have no reason to leave. So apparently they just reading further along, they play classical music for adults because to keep the young ones out. Like, oh, this isn't the newest hip song that I know of. Oh, I've got no reason to be here.
I was gonna say this wouldn't have worked like 30 years ago when all the kids watched Fantasia and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Really like.
McDonald's always conflicting others. It tastes so great, but it's somewhat bad for you. They try to advertise for children, but also make it a classy place for adults.
Classy is not a word I'd use for McDeets.
Well, that's not what Mr. Tonight tells us. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah?
those old McDonald's commercials with the guy with a moon for a head saying, "McDonald's is open later. Come on in." So, yeah, it's a more obscure McDonald's character that's not normally seen today. So.
Oh, I know who you mean. You mean the one with the sunglasses?
Yeah.
Don't you? Yeah. I remember.
I'd probably recognise it if I saw a picture, but it is not ringing a bell.
Yeah. The McDonald's mascots have always been a colourful bunch, and now, in an effort to keep everyone satisfied, they've just replaced their mascot entirely with a sentient Happy Meal box.
Yeah.
Somehow, people think that's more creepy than Ronald McDonald.
Yeah.
Nah. No, if anything, I don't know. The McDonald's boxes, the sentient ones, always remind me of the Minions from Despicable Me. I don't know what it is, but they just seem like cardboard copies.
Okay, and finally, the last headline that I have is this. The internet is going wild over a fashion designer's latest trend of inflatable latex trousers.
Care to run that by me again?
The internet is going wild over these inflatable latex trousers. Now, in order to give you a better understanding, I'm gonna temporarily cut here just so I have enough time to post the image to you lot. Okay, I'm sending it in the chat now. Tell me what you think of this. It's on its way.
My God.
They look like something out of Aladdin.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's like a mix of Arabian Nights plus clowns.
Yeah. Now,
who authorized this?
Now, the fashion world, it's a pretty crazy place, but oftentimes I think the idea is as long as something is attached to the human body, it can be considered art. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I can see circuses using them, but nobody would wear these daily, surely.
Basically, that's just fashion shows in general. Like, they're kind of interesting to look at, but not to actually, like, wear unless you are very, very brave.
Yeah, it's like those weird shoes, like those stock images of ridiculous shoes that people make. Do you, honestly, it's like that one with like the little dustpan and brush on each on each tip. It's like no one wears that. It's just for display. It's just for because someone said I have an idea.
Yeah, I've seen old shoes that used to have slots where you could put your Game Boy on them, and they're worth looking at the images of because they're quite funny. But even I wouldn't go out in public wearing those. I mean, well, obviously not at this age, but
You know, I think I've this is a kind of a crazy idea which I've been thinking about. Now, when criminals escape from prison, you know how they're often depicted wearing those like black and white vests or like those completely orange vests. What I think officers should be doing is anytime they escape or straight up commit a crime, they should add an item of ridiculous clothing to them and just super glue it to them. So if they ever break out again, people know what to look for. So just imagine that, like you've got a police sellotaping a wanted poster up, and it's like keep an eye out for this man. He's most commonly seen wearing a pair of fairy wings, a clown nose, on top of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle mask.
Nice.
Someone going around in a cat in a hat.
Yeah, you see, that's recognizable. That's bound to get you noticed. Like, oh hey, you're that guy who the police issued a warning about. We found him. Get him. Get him. Get him. So.
The important thing, though, will the police robots be able to recognise them well enough? That's the thing. Excuse me, there's a guy in a really tall hat over there. It just goes
well,
past.
They've got 360 cameras, so they never blink, so they just look out everywhere and oh, there he is. Get him. So yep, those are the month's headlines.
I'm Randy Newman, and you're listening to the Fresh Air Show. I'm Randy Newman.
Okay, so I was interested in asking you this question. What is your favourite British animal? That's fun. I thought if you had to choose your favourite, what would you pick, do you think?
My favourite British animal.
And I don't necessarily mean animals you'd see in a zoo here, you know, or certain dogs, unless it's a British dog. That counts.
But... Well, that kind of adds to the problem because, yes, we have ducks here, but you have ducks all over the planet, so narrowing it down is going to be quite a challenge. So,
I guess the ducks we have are British ducks. Aren't they? I mean, I know we've got Canadian geese and things like that.
Yeah, but they just migrate here. They come from Canada.
Oh, I don't really think about that.
You know, just going off on a tangent here, I have another headline. China prepares 100,000 ducks to battle Pakistan's locust plague. Release the Kraken!
Oh God!
So,
that's a pun I can appreciate.
Yeah.
Release the Krakens!
Because apparently a single duck can eat 200 locusts a day, so...
Wow.
Yep. They're their aggressive grasshopper populations are going to be in trouble.
Yes. Oh, I know all too well how dangerous ducks are. I tried to feed one some bread once, and it bit me on the thumb. Oh, the pain!
And ducks don't even have teeth.
I know, it didn't hurt at all.
Yeah.
Now, they are the definition of small but will fight you.
Because no matter what, anything with a mouth, it will try to bite you. So, anyway, back to what we consider our favourite British animal.
Yeah. Well, I just remembered I meant to rephrase it, because as you know, I love snakes. So usually my go-to would be an adder. But I want to rephrase it to, what is your favourite British mammal? Because I think if I had to choose one, I have always loved foxes. I do like
Same
foxes.
No.
But does that make a fox a British mascot? Because we don't have wolves and things anymore. So.
Who knows?
What?
Maybe.
Question?
As for me, just at the top of my mind, I'm just gonna have to say hedgehog. There's just something so British about the hedgehog, like this small, round little character. Like, I can see him, like, wearing a monocle, drinking a cup of tea. Just so.
It's like those old King of the Road adverts, which I messaged you recently with the hedgehogs.
Yeah.
And you can get pet hedgehogs as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sonic, get away from the window. We don't mean you. Get away.
Did he actually pass by there? My mind was blank.
I thought I saw him peeking into our studio for a second.
Oh. Oh, okay. So what about you, Ryan?
Yeah, foxes are probably one of my favourites. My great uncle who lives close by, he actually feeds several foxes that come by, and I actually got to see one up close from like the window. And in a lot of like cartoons and stuff, foxes, they're drawn with like narrow eyes and smug little smiles because they're meant to be like cunning little things. But this one, it was just like big brown eyes, and it seemed more confused than sly, and it was just trotting up, looking around all confused and innocent with big brown eyes, and just munching on the chicken that my great uncle left out. And I think my heart melted a little bit when I saw them.
I had one night, I was outside of Tesco, and there was this massive fox roaming the car park. And so I did the basic, what you do when you approach an animal is you bend down so you're their height and all that stuff. And I did manage to get it really close to me, like within stroking distance, and I was sat next to it. But unfortunately, all I had to offer it was an old lottery ticket. If I'd had some beef jerky or something, I would have given it a couple of spits. And I was like, I want to give you something.
Yeah, I remember seeing that video quite a while back. And I just thought, Dudley, in the process of recruiting new enforcements for his army in our series.
I think foxes in media are really popular on the internet. It just seems they're just always cute or cunning, like you said. Yeah. And actually, when I first saw a Gretzko, I couldn't actually tell what Gretzko was for a couple of episodes, and at first I thought she was a fox, and then when I found out she was a red panda, I was like, oh, okay, because you can tell by her tail. It's like a little raccoon tail, sort of thing.
Well, we're almost out of time for this podcast, but I do want to end it off with this last story that came up recently.
Okay.
And just reading through it, I've not read this in a while, and there are a few sweary Marys, but I'll do my best to censor it. Okay, and just from this random guy, it's saying, does anyone remember that urban legend saying Bloody Mary in the mirror in the bathroom?
Yes, I recall.
I can't remember.
Yeah, basically, just reading further on, we were all scared to do it in primary school. And basically, you go into the bathroom, turn the lights off, and just say Bloody Mary 3 times, and apparently she appears behind you and scares you.
Or
So,
close your face off.
yeah. And so, reading further on, well, I was going to bed, turning the lights out, and it just randomly popped into my head. And I thought, I'm a grown man in my 20s. It's finally time I try it out. I am fearless. And so I actually did it. And reading further on, and I kid you not, my Airwick timed air freshener went off. Not a split second after that last Bloody Mary. and it and it's got a red glow for ambient effect. So the room lit up like the entrance of hell. I screamed so loud I actually crapped myself, and I fell off, smashing the cup holder in the drawers.
Oh god.
That
I
that is horrifying.
have to sympathise with him a little bit because even our ones have made me jump multiple times. And to be so lost in thought and suddenly
Yeah.
it's like
In an effort to keep the place clean, these Airwick things just suddenly spray off like psst. Ugh. So, good God, what a worse time for that to go off in the middle of Bloody Mary.
oh god.
yes.
I wonder how many people are going to go away from this and try it tonight now. But, like,
Lock up
that is a really funny note to end this podcast on, definitely.
Yeah, especially in dire times like this. So, we'll see you guys potentially for the next podcast. So, keep yourself safe, and hopefully we'll make it through this virus together. So,
Yeah.
anything you want to close out with?
Let's do this together, guys. Watch out for one another
Mm-hmm.
and take care of yourselves, as Dan says.
Stay safe and be sensible.
Alright. So, we'll see you next time, guys. Bye-bye!
See ya!
Bye.
You have been listening to The Fresh Air Show. Leave a comment down below or email Fresh Powder. See you next month for a whole new slew of content. I'm talking really fast right now because it's what they do at the end of the radio shows.